Hello friends, we're continuing with our class about biblical stories with Kabbalistic spiritual explanation with a little bit of reincarnation flavor. So I'm going to share another story that relates to King David. Soon you're going to see or to hear the story. And it's kind of a harsh story where things look completely not fair. And the purpose of that story and the way that we're going to speak about it and to learn from the wisdom of Kabbalah and specifically the wisdom of reincarnation will be to illustrate the things that we are going through in our lives. Either it's great things or things that are not that great, or even, God forbid, things that are terrible, are always connected to different lifetimes. So again, that story relates to King David, and let me just get straight into it. But I must give you a warning at the beginning. It looks like King David is not such a nice individual, in that story, or not such a great king. And I want to tell you right from the beginning, as we learn from the Kabbalistic point of view, from the spiritual point of view, the stories of the Torah, the stories of the 5 books of Moses, and also the stories that we can see in other parts of the Bible, like the prophets. Here it will be from Samuel B. All those stories did happen physically or literally in history, but it's really codes. That those codes are energetic codes concerning our souls, concerning the process of reincarnation. So when we learn how, or we get inspired at least, to look at the big picture, to expand our consciousness, hopefully we can put things in the right place. And even if I don't know the exact details about what's going on in my life, in other people's life, at least I have the consciousness and the most important thing, the certainty that it's there for a reason. And the point of those stories, specifically if you take in the good advice and actually go and read it for yourself. When we read it for ourselves, and we make the effort to read it for ourselves, with having in mind that we want to expand our consciousness, hopefully the spiritual lessons are more than just a spiritual cliche, right? I mean, we know already, we heard it so many times, that things relates to past lifetimes for each one of us individually, for humanity in general. But really, that's like one of, as a Kabbalah student, I'm a student as well. We all students at the end of the day. As a Kabbalah student, there is always the fear that after repeating the same lessons for so many years, or for as long as you've been into the spiritual journey, little by little, those spiritual truths becoming or might become a little bit shallow or hollow or just a cliche. So every once in a while, a good biblical story that we can again go and read for ourselves, it's kind of, shaking and shoking our system, and hopefully it kind of registering within our consciousness in a deeper level. The story that I'm about to share today, you can read about it in the book Samuel B, as I mentioned, in Samuel B, chapter 21. Vayirav בימי David, I will read a little bit from the Hebrew words, and then of course translate, and then we'll see the bigger picture. Vayirav בימי David 3 שנים, they're talking about a famine. King David is the king. There is a famine, there is a hunger that is going on for 3 years. What's the reason? Maybe there is a drought or any other reason, but there is a severe hunger, famine for 3 years. And King David understands that might be a physical reason, again, no rain, drought, but he understands that at the end of the day, there is always some kind of a spiritual, energetic kind of reason. ויבקש דוד את פני השם. King David turns to God Almighty, the Creator, and he asks, what's the reason for that famine? What's going on? What creates this spiritual, energetic blockage that people and animals, the flocks, the herds, everybody suffering from that hunger? V'omer Hashem, and God is saying, it's because of the previous king, King Shaul, King Saul, and what he have done. What exactly King Saul done? Well, he did a lot of things. In the biblical story itself, Saul was a great king, a great Saul, obviously. He did a lot of great things and things that are questionable, like King David, if we read it in the superficial level. So God is saying to David, Saul, the previous king, he killed from the Givonim. The Gibeonites or something like that. I'm not sure how the word in English. It's probably very similar to Hebrew, but it's an ethnic group. We're not talking about a big nation, but a small ethnic group that lived in Israel. And God is saying to King David, the hunger, the famine, it's because of Saul, the previous king, that killed from the Givonim, from this ethnic nation. Let's go a little bit back to the book of Joshua, so we'll have a bigger picture. I mentioned already the Givonim are a group of, this ethnic group lived in Israel. When Joshua, reminding ourselves, is Moses' successor. He was the person that actually got the children of Israel, the Israelites, he got them into Israel, and he started a campaign. A military campaign to conquer Israel. And of course, it's going from one city. The first city is Jericho, and then Ai, and you can read it in the book of Joshua. A lot of reading that I'm asking you to do, if you like, of course. Anyway, so in the book of Joshua, he's conquering this city, that city, and in a short while, the people, those different ethnic groups, small nations, they figure out we have a power here. Joshua, the Israelites are coming, they're conquering Israel, and this ethnic group, the Givonim, they send the entourage, they send a small group of people representing them, they send those people to Joshua and they say the following: listen, Joshua, we are the Givonim, we are coming from far away, and we want to become your allies. We don't want to fight with you. We want to become allies with you. And Joshua says, of course, sure, what's the problem? Why not? A short while after that, Joshua figures out that this group, they didn't come from a different land, from a very far away place. And he says to them, you cheated me. You understand that I have the strong military force here in Israel, that I'm conquering the land, and you lied to me. You told me that you're coming from far away, but actually you're from the neighborhood. Why did you lie to me? And the Gibeonites, they're saying, listen, right, we lied to you because we're afraid of you. We see your mighty military force, we got scared, and we said we better be friends with Joshua and the Israelites, so we lied to you that we're coming from a faraway place and everything I just told you. And they appease Joshua's mind, and they say, listen, don't worry, Joshua, we understand. Please don't hate us, for lying. We'll be your servants. Our ethnic group will do we'll get the water from the water well. We'll be kind of your servants, not slaves, but servants. And Joshua says, it's a deal. I just want to let you know that when we're talking about allies, it's not only that Joshua is committing to the Gibeonites not to attack them, but it means if somebody else attacking them. It's like we see in modern days, like NATO, stuff like that. So if somebody is attacking them, Joshua is committed to protect them. Anyway, just to know. It's interesting. Read it in the book of Joshua. So for few centuries, that agreement from the days of Joshua is being kept. for a few centuries, not for a few decades, few centuries. Then comes King Saul, and he breaks it for whatever reason. The Bible is not giving us the specific details, but I guess something happened. Not that the Givonim did anything wrong, but Saul is breaking the deal that Joshua made already a few centuries ago, and he kills not all of them, but a good amount of people from the Givonim. And that's exactly what God is telling David now. He says, King David, the reason why you have this hunger, this famine, it's because the Gibeonites are upset. They are hurt because what Saul did for them. So King David understands. I mean, he's the king. He has the responsibility, right? For the people, no rain, no food, everybody dying. Very dangerous for 3 years already. So he goes to the Givonim and he says, how can I ease your pain? What do you want me to do? Give you money? Give you gold? And they say, no, King David, we have no problem with you or with your people. No problem with you. And we don't want your money. We don't want your gold. We just want you to hand over the descendants of Saul, the previous king. We want revenge, basically. We don't want gold. We don't want money. We want revenge. That's the only thing that will relax us, take the pain away from us. And of course, King David, he has an interest here, right? Because God told him, appease the Gibeonites, make peace with them, make them happy, and you won't suffer from this hunger anymore. So King David has a dilemma here, right? I want also to remind you that part of the bigger story here, it's the rivalry between the house of David and the house of Saul. We spoke about it in the past. If you remember, fine. If not, also not a problem, right? But when the Gibeonites are saying to King David, hand over the grandchildren of King Shaul, of King Saul, we'll take our revenge. From a political point of view, it was a good deal for King David. He hands over the grandchildren of who? Of the person that looked to kill him all the time, the previous king, Saul. There is a war between these two houses. It's like Game of Thrones, right? The house of David, the house of Saul. So by handing them over to the Gibeonites, David is actually securing his kingdom and his lineage. He doesn't want anybody from Saul's house to bother him and to bother his children and, the next kings from his lineage. And when they are telling him, hand over the descendants, in that case, we're really talking about Saul's grandsons mainly, King David is saying, okay, I will hand over the descendants of Saul, but not the son of Jonathan. So we have Saul, King Saul, we have Jonathan, that was a dear friend of David, and David is saying, the son of Jonathan, which is the grandson of Saul, I'm not handing over. Who I'm going to hand over? Here's the interesting part. There is a woman, her name is Ritzpah bat Aya. Momo, maybe we can put the first slide if you dare. Ritzpah bat Aya, she's King Saul. Do you see there? She's King Saul concubine, Ritzpah bat Aya. Okay? And she have 2 children, Harmony and Mephibosheth. You don't have to remember those names, but remember her name. You don't have to memorize it, but just pay attention. Ritzpah bat Aya. Back to me, Momo. Ritzpah bat Aya, she have 2 children with Saul that already passed away, Harmony and Mephibosheth. So King David takes these 2 children. At the time, they are not children anymore, I guess. Yes, maybe young adults. And he hands over to the Givonim. And 5 grandchildren of Saul. Altogether, 7 people. He gives them to the Givonim, and surely enough, the Givonim execute those 7 individuals. 2 sons of Saul and 5 grandsons of Saul, together 7. And it was King David that handed them over. I'm sure that there are so many spiritual questions now, maybe even philosophical. We are not philosophers. I'm not a philosopher at least, but is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? Many questions. Because again, King David is responsible also for the suffering of the whole nation, the entire people of Israel. 3 years, no food. People are dying from hunger. And God is telling him, it's this messed up situation, energetic blockage from Saul and this group. Remember the Givonim? I mean, of course, remember because we're talking about it. And as we see, King David decides to hand over those 7 people, and the Givonim execute them. They are killing them. Now they are killing them. It's around, let's say, this time of the year, summertime. Okay, and for a few months, Ritzpah bat Aya, the mother of at least 2 of them, and she, of course, familiar with the grandsons of Saul. For a few months, she is there, and basically, I'm sorry, it's really, the graphic is terrible, yes? After they execute them, those 7 descendants of Saul, they left them hanging on the walls of the city. Really Game of Thrones kind of scene, if you follow the HBO series back then. Okay, they keep them there on the walls of the city, exposed to the weather, exposed to the birds, to the animals of the field. And Ritzpah bat Aya, she is there for a few months. She covering them from, different weather conditions, and she doesn't let any animal, any bird to get close to them. And of course, the scene is very harsh. She's very painful, actually. She's mourning for her own sons, the 2 kids, and the 5 others. Very difficult scene. If you read the story, that's what I'm telling you. It's good to read these things because you can actually feel it. She's mourning, but for a few months, she doesn't leave this place. She protects them, as we just mentioned. Few months later, people coming to King David, and they're telling him, Ritzpah bat Aya, she's, watching the dead bodies, the everything I told you. And King David says, okay, now it's time to go to the people there and say, you got what you wanted, let's take the bodies off the wall, bring them to appropriate burial, and also he takes the bodies of Saul and Jonathan that died in a battle that happened before, and he bring all of them to appropriate burial. The Gibeonites get their revenge. The famine, of course, stops. There is food again. Without getting into the details, the end of story, this specific one. So this is a very difficult story from the Bible about revenge, about unfinished business, about King David that was in a dilemma and eventually chose to hand over. So we learn in Kabbalah that King David was a super elevated soul, right? Righteous, tzaddik, the channel for Malchut. Let's go a little bit now to the reincarnation part. I just chose this story to show you. And again, if you ask yourself, how Ritzpah bat Aya, the mother, yes, Saul concubine, how she felt about it? Was she begging to King David, hey, it's my children, I understand that you have this responsibility and the hunger, but they're asking for my children. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to kill them and then to keep them on the wall. I mean, it's not something new. That's what these people are doing. Please spare the life of my children. So the human drama that is going on there, and those are not stories, those are energies. How Ritzpah bat Aya felt. I understand that Saul killed some of those people, but his children, how it's their fault? What about me? Where is fairness? Where is cause and effect? So I must tell you that I didn't see a specific explanation about the 7 descendants of Shaul, of King Saul. We're in the portion of Korach, but about Saul we have explanation, and everything has to do with some unfinished business, with some things that our soul still need to deal with. And even in the hardest times, and this is a very hard story, none of us should go through something that is even similar to that, right? But just, this is like very extreme. Just to illustrate, everything has to do with past lives, but not as a spiritual cliche. We really want to drill it, to bring it closer to our consciousness, into our soul. We happen to be in the week of Korach, the portion of Korach. The Zohar is telling us, definitely the Ari as well, that Korach is Saul. The soul of Korach, within Korach's soul, he had 308 pieces of negative energy. Shach, the Hebrew letters Shin and Chet, the numerical value is 308. Within Korach's soul, he had 308 spiritual pieces, sparks, negative ones, from the soul of Abel, from the story of Cain and Abel. Then Korach, so some of his soul came from the negative aspect of Abel, and then he had the spiritual level of Ruach from Cain. That was the mixture, the energetic mixture soul of Korach. Mainly it came from the Ruach of Cain. Cain, elevated soul, but like any soul, has the negative and the positive. When we read the story of the Torah, from the Torah, about Korach, in the portion of Korach, of course, we see that Korach is bringing up this energy of dispute, of conflict with Moses' brother Miriam, and Moses' sister Miriam, and Moses' brother Aaron. He accused them of nepotism, the reasons that many of us heard for so many years. There is another reason that it will be new for you. Korach was very elevated. He was extremely rich and wealthy, a scholar, very spiritual individual. He was a Levite. And he had his own vision, his own prophecy, his own divine inspiration. In his prophecy, Korach saw that generations after him, one of his offsprings will be Samuel the prophet. The story that we just read is from the book of Samuel in the Bible. Korach saw in his prophecy, one of my offsprings is Shmuel HaNavi, Samuel the prophet, that has extreme spiritual significance. One of the important things about Samuel the prophet was the fact that he was the individual that basically finished Agag, the king of Amalek. Many of you already know that Amalek is a code name not only for this ancient nation, but Amalek is a code name for the most destructive, negative force in our lives. That will be, of course, uncertainty and doubts. Who paved the road? One of the people that paved the road, spiritually talking, we still need to do our work, yes, but they paved the road. One of them was Samuel the prophet. He killed the king of Amalek. We're not talking about a manslaughter in a physical way. That's not the stories of the Bible. We're talking about codes of energy. When Samuel killed the king of Amalek, we're talking about Samuel paved the road for each one of us to go to the seed level of doubts and uncertainty and remove it from our lives. At least he paved the road. But originally, that task of removing the seed level of doubts, the king of Amalek, Agag, the task was given to whom, my friends? To Saul. To that very king that his descendants were executed by the Givonim. The story that we just learned at the beginning of our session. This task, this spiritual mission was given originally to Saul. He failed. King Saul failed. The prophet Samuel, they told him about this spiritual mission because he is a prophet. Yes, he was a channel for that message from God to give it to Saul. And again, Saul failed the mission. Samuel the prophet, he did it. He paved the road to remove the seed level of doubts and uncertainty. At least it was one of those people that did it. Back to Korach. So Korach is like, look what's coming out of me. Is one of my offsprings down the road. Samuel will come from me. I'm a very important person, says Korach to himself. I cannot be a bench player. So only Moses and Miriam and Aaron, they are the main guys. I'm important as well. I'm a Levite. That's a good job. I'm even the leader of the tribe. But I want to be the top guy. I want to be number one. Why? One of the reasons, he had many reasons in his mind, yes, but one of the reasons in his prophecy, it just saw what I told you, that Samuel the prophet is coming from me. So I'm part of this tremendous strong energy to remove Amalek. He saw it, but he didn't deal with it in the right way. So now, notice the following. Korach, Samuel the prophet, and Saul, they're all coming from who? From the soul of Cain. They're all coming from the same mega root of souls, the soul of Cain. All the three of them. Korach, even though Korach had also some sparks from Abel. So again, Korach, Saul, and Samuel. They're all coming from the same place, from the soul of Cain. Now let's look even deeper into the soul of, it's kind of soul and soul. With my English, it's hard to differentiate, okay? So we're talking about the soul of King Shaul. And with my English, King Shaul's soul, it's similar to Neshama, to soul. But you understand where we're talking about. If you go to the portion of Bereshit, the very first portion in the book of Genesis, that's where we have the story of creation. And we know as well that this is a code also, right? The 6 days of creation and everything that happened there. And of course, then as we progress in the story, the first murder ever. Cain kills his brother Abel. Very famous story. Now, God is putting a sign, the Hebrew letter Vav, the energy of the Hebrew letter Vav, on Cain's forehead. And Cain lived for many, many years. It says even few generations. When you check out the generations in the book of Bereshit, you see that most of them lived for like 700 years, 800 years, like Methuselah and all these people. Those numbers, they did live physically, for hundreds of years, but again, we're really talking about codes. So if you go in there to the first portion in Bereshit, first portion story in the book of Genesis, you will read about this individual named Lemech. Mordechai, if we can put the second slide, I think we can see it there. Lemech. So, we spoke about it. Samuel the prophet, just a short recap. Samuel the prophet is a descendant of Korach. He killed Agag, the king of Amalek. Next one, Mordechai. Okay? Cain. reincarnated into this individual called Lemech. In a few seconds we'll speak about it. And Lemech got reincarnated into King Saul. Means King Saul is also reincarnated, King Saul is also reincarnation of Cain, but in the middle we have the link of Lemech. Cain, Lemech, King Saul. Now King Saul, he lived 77 generations after Lemech. After Cain and Lemech. 77 generations. Back to me. Why is it so important? This Lemech, when we read about him in the first portion in the Torah, Bereshit, this Lemech is reincarnation of Cain, but they lived at the same time, because Cain lived for a few centuries according to the biblical story. So how can it be that Lemech was at the same time? Because again, we're talking about sparks of energy, sparks of souls. So Cain was still alive, and Lemech, which is reincarnation, but is a reincarnation of a certain aspect of Cain. Cain is still alive, and that's important for us to know. Why? Because when we read the story in Genesis, in Bereshit, if you have our Kabbalistic Bible from the Kabbalah Center, so it will be in the 5th Aliyah, in the 5th segment of the story. It's fascinating. We won't go into all details. Lemech got married to 2 ladies, 2 women, Tzila and Ada. He had few children. One of his children, just like something that is nice to know, one of Lemech's children, his name was Yuval, is the soul that from his soul, all souls of all musicians came from him. So whatever kind of music you like, classic, jazz, rock, okay, whatever you like, the souls of all musicians came from one of the children of Lemech. It's in the Bible. Avi kol tofes kinor ve'ugav. Anybody that play any musical instrument, their soul are linked to the son of Lemech. So you read it there, because it's the story of souls again, yes? So this Lemech, he turns to his 2 wives, and basically that's like the very short segment of poetry in the first portion in Genesis. First segment of poetry in the scriptures, and he tells his 2 wives, I've killed a man. I got hurt, I got wounded, and I killed this man. Very short in Genesis. Then we have a tale, a midrash. Okay, it's those parts of what we call the oral Torah. The Zohar is part of it, and so it's like different tales, different stories, different messages that came in different ways. And the story is nothing but fascinating. That's in the Midrash, part of the oral study. And they're telling us that Lemech was going on a hunting trip with his son, Tuval Cain. Within Tuval Cain, you can hear Cain. So he's going on a hunting trip, he is blind, he takes the arrow and bow, he shoot it, and he heard this man. His son, Tuval Cain, is saying, Father, you just killed Cain, you just killed Cain. And Lemech sofek yadav, it means he's doing like this, oh my God, I just killed Cain, by mistake. And himself is a spark from Cain, remember? So he's doing, oh my God, sofek yadav. That's the expression in Hebrew. It's either this movement, oh my God, or this movement, oh my God, kind of almost the same. Okay? And then the Midrash, he says that as he's doing, oh my God, I killed Cain. When he did that, he killed also his son. Mistakenly, yes? Like, pick, and he squeezed his own son, Tuval Cain, between his hands. And it's like a choke or crazy story, I mean, doesn't even make sense. Of course, we have the Rabbi Isaac Luria, aka the Ari, and he's telling us a little bit what the secret of the whole thing. Now, you have to put some things together. I will go to, because it's many details, right? Remember the beginning of the class, we talked about Ritzpah. King David is handing over the seven descendants of Saul. King Shaul doesn't look fair, but again, everything has to do with some story of reincarnation. Writings of the Ari, I'm just looking for the right place. And the Ari is telling us the following. Lemech, that I just shared a little bit, is the story, is reincarnation of Cain. He gets his soul from Cain, but Cain is actually still alive during that time, as we mentioned. And we're talking about 7 generations already. And then Lemech is telling to his wife, you can read it, this is where I told you, yes, in the first portion of Genesis. He says to his wife, with Cain, the whole story will go for 7 generations. With me, it will go for 77 generations. And that's it. The Torah doesn't tell us more than that. The Ari revealed that Lemech, this is at the very beginning, almost the very beginning, 7 generations after Adam and Eve, after Cain. For them, it's nothing, 7 generations. But Lemech was able to look 77 generations into the future. 77 generations. And you see Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, which is his reincarnation. Now the Ari going into a very, very deep discourse, very deep process that is happening here, very complicated. So we skip the super complicated parts now that we understand that Saul, Shaul HaMelech, King Shaul, is reincarnation of Lemech. Now, Lemech, it's exactly the same letters of the Hebrew word Melech. You can even hear it. Just you switch the Lamed and Mem. Okay? Lemech, the name of the individual, Lemech and Melech. Melech means a king. So that's the hint already in Genesis for 77 generations after for King Shaul, King Saul, that failed his mission to retrieve, to pave the road, to retrieve the energy of complete certainty. So the Ari is saying, Lemech, when it says that mistakenly killed Cain, it wasn't mistakenly. He was choosing to do that so he can help Cain to start paying for the murder of Abel, his brother. I must restrict this understanding a little bit with those people. We're talking about huge mega souls. So they had to play a certain script, like a Shakespearean actor on the stage. We cannot hurt people. We cannot use this study to say, oh, I hurt this individual or that person because I was chosen by God to hurt. Okay? If we hurt somebody, the other person can think like that. Yes? Oh, you hurt me, but you only a channel. But the person that hurts will have to pay also. Lemech was chosen, is a spark from Cain, so is actually related to the energy of Cain, to the soul of Cain, but he had to do something. That's what the Ari is saying. V'imitat Cain miyad Lemech. It wasn't completely a mistake. Lemech, which his reincarnation of a spark of Cain, was choosing to close a certain thing there, yes? Something is open, there is an open account, unfinished business, so he's killing Cain. But Lemech himself reincarnated into Shaul, Saul, that was giving the task of what? Finishing Amalek. He had the reasons. He says to the prophet Samuel, well, I killed most of Amalek, which is the epitome, the embodiment of doubt and uncertainty. I killed most of the Amalek people, but I left the king alive. Stupid, you should have killed the king. The king is the keter, the top of the top, the seed level. He had his reasons. Few reasons, we won't get into it right now. And he says, I'm not going. I left Agag, the king of Amalek. And Samuel the prophet is saying, you made a very bad mistake. Your kingdom will be taken away from you, and it will be given to a better man, David. And this is not about judging Saul or David. It's just, again, to open our consciousness how everything has a much bigger story concerning our souls than what we can see. Samuel is saying, you didn't finish Amalek, the Agag, the king of Amalek. You didn't go to the seed level, to the Keter. Very bad mistake. Malchutcha tikara me'elecha. Your kingdom, you won't be a king anymore, and you will pay for it. So now, Saul is paying also for Lemech. It's all going lifetimes upon lifetimes. מכאן חלה המצווה על שאול שהוא מלך ממש להחרים את עמלק. So we spoke about he failed. Finishing Amalek. And then we said, Samuel the prophet, he killed the king. When we go back to the previous life of Saul as Lemech, and I told you in the story, Lemech is saying, oh my God, I killed Cain. As he's doing it, he's squeezing in between his hands his own son, Tuval Cain. Also doesn't make sense. What are he saying? Tuval Cain לא נהרג ולא נחנק, אלא דחקו בין שתי ידיו. When the story is telling us that Lemech did that, the right hand, says the Ari, represents the energy of mercy, chasadim. Chesed, most of you are familiar with this expression. Chesed, right column energy, kindness, generosity. The left hand represents gvurot, judgment. Judgment is not necessarily a negative thing, but it can be used as a negative judgment. So when he did like that, Lemech, he basically increased the energy of judgment more than the energy of kindness. So he brought more judgment. That's the code in his story. So he brought so much energy of judgment that his own son, it's also a code, died. A little bit forward, when we speak, and I will finish with that because it's a lot of details. When we speak about Saul, that is reincarnation of Lemech, which is reincarnation of Cain, and Saul was given the task of finishing the Amalek, including the king, the Keter, as we mentioned a few times already, and he failed. Samuel did it, and remember, Korach is looking, hey, look what's coming out of me. Samuel is killing the Amalek. Now the Aris continue into Yechezkel, the prophet Ezekiel, super great prophet. Also recommended to read the book of Ezekiel. He has this insane, quote unquote, insane in a positive way, prophecies. One of the things is Chazon Ha'atzamot HaYeveshot. It talks about Ezekiel taking scattered bones, bringing the bones of the skeleton together and resurrecting. Here the Ari says it's a code. You make the math. Shishim ribo, 60 times 10,000. 60 times, that's the language. They don't say million or something. They say 60 times 10,000 sparks of souls. And he resurrect them. And basically, Saul, one of the codes about King Saul, he was a great Saul. One of the codes about him, and I'll keep it simple, the energy of King Shaul, not only that he was giving the task to bring back the energy of certainty, but it has to do with the energy of immortality and resurrection. So specifically, that Saul, of Shaul, of Saul, has to do with the emanation of Yesod. And it says that when you read it in the scriptures about Shaul, Saul, it says that he was a very tall person. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin, that tribe, they're all basketball players, very tall people, strong and tall. That's that tribe. But then it says something very interesting about him. It says that he was nechba el hakelim, very humble and very shy. It means Saul was like that person in a social event or social engagement or a party, he won't be like dancing in the middle, attracting attention to himself. He will be the guy that is like low-key, not so loud, having a conversation in the corner, like that. Very shy, reserved, humble. But when you read in the Ari, in the Nechba el hakelim, it reminds me those movies that about the Holocaust, the time of the Nazis, of the Germans, the Holocaust specifically, and they take people and they're sending them to the death camps, and you have this kid, 5, 6 years old, that when they take the entire family of this kid, that kid is getting under the sink. There is this cabinet under the sink, and he's hiding there, and the Nazis cannot find him. And all the family going to Auschwitz, kaput, dead, gas chambers, the whole terrible story. But that kid is alive. Why? Because he was hiding in the cabinet, in the attic. And by the way, there are real stories like that. It's not just imagination or Holocaust stories. There are stories, real stories about Holocaust survivors that as kids, they were hiding there, hiding here, hiding there. What's the connection to Saul? In the level of Yesod, and when it says that he was very humble, reserved, and shy, nechba el hakelim, it means literally he's hiding. He's not making a big deal out of himself. But what's the energy? What's the secret? It's that spark. Saul, Shaul, the king, represents that spark in the level of Yesod that we all potentially have inside, that is hiding and is protected from the energy of mortality. That's Shaul, that is Saul. Nechba el hakelim is hiding. What does it mean is hiding? It's that energy that is hidden, that deep certainty that still need to be uncovered within each one of us. And Shaul is the embodiment of that. Okay, so now we see the positive thing about him. That spark of energy, Nechba el hakelim, is hiding, is indestructible. It has to do with the story of Purim. The holiday of Purim, again, Haman, the negative guy, is Amalek, of course, is representing the doubt in Amalek. And when we study about Purim, we say Purim will be the only cosmic event, the only spiritual holiday that will never disappear. All the rest, we won't need it that much anymore. Rosh Hashanah, Passover, if you're familiar, great. If not, okay. But all the things, everything else will be cancelled. What will be there forever? Purim. Because it's energy that is not destructible. You cannot destroy this energy. Shaul represents this energy that doesn't suffer from mortality. That's the spark that will help all of us to reach this immortality, resurrection, consciousness, and eventually even physically. But he failed on what? On bringing back the certainty. In one of the things that it's so hard to believe and so hard to inject certainty into, it's the energy of mortality. Not only the physical mortality, but God forbid somebody lost their house, lost their job, lost something that it looked like that's it. It's a total loss. We even use this expression. The car is total lost, right? How can I bring it back to life? So much certainty that is needed there. That's why the story goes into Ezekiel that resurrected that type of consciousness. So now we see, I don't know exactly about what Ritzpah bat Aya had in mind. Now let's put it in together. When she saw those 7 young individuals, 2 of them, it's her own sons. 5, the grandsons of Saul, which is kind of her significant other also, right? And she's close to all the 7 of them. What exactly she had in mind? Of course, great sorrow, great pain. We spoke about it. Did she beg King David? Don't hand them over? What King David had in his mind? I have to do it. I have to sacrifice those 7 people. I know that they are going to execute them, but by that, I'm saving thousands of lives. What's the right thing here? Or maybe both of them, or at least one of them, knew that it's all but an illusion. King David for sure knew. So like, what's the problem? It relates to the story of Abraham and the sacrificing of Isaac, which is more the binding of Isaac. And one of the explanations, for Abraham it wasn't a problem. I can sacrifice my son. I can slay his throat. I can kill him. And a second after resurrect him. That's one of the explanations. Again, don't take it to the wrong place. Okay? You understand me? We are not to kill anybody and to say, I'll resurrect you a second after. I'm afraid we are not there yet. But it's one of the options. For Abraham, what's the problem? The same with Aaron and his sons, Nadav and Avihu. On one hand, which are also from the source of or root soul of Cain. On one hand, Aaron is in deep sorrow and pain. He's mourning. His 2 sons are just dead in front of his eyes. On a higher realm in Aaron consciousness, this is nothing. This is nothing. It's nothing but an illusion. Of course, again, we are not there yet. We want to get there, yes? So, again, the question is, when you look at stories that are not fair, and there are so much pain and suffering, but when you read in the Zohar or in the Ari like we did today, you see the story of Saul, Lemech, this one kills this but in their minds, everything is completely in a different place. That doesn't mean that pain doesn't exist. At the end, what I want to tell you, the pain is there, the challenge is there. It's always about how much of more elevated consciousness we have. And God forbid, nobody should go through any extreme situations like that. We don't need it anymore. None of us should go through something like that. But that story, and I really recommend that you will go and read it directly. Okay, it represents, it's putting on the table so much potential sorrow and pain, and then you add you have the different angle. King David knew about immortality. He was there already. So check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.